Imagine a photograph taken 500 years ago. That is what French archaeologists just found. A 16th-century ship nicknamed Camarat 4 was discovered 1.6 miles deep, frozen in time.
We're talking about still preserved ropes, shipwrecks that literally look as if they had sunk yesterday.
We're looking at a snapshot of a moment in time, probably as long as 1,000 years ago. We're looking at the last moment in the life of a ship.
The ship is a puzzle. It has cannons for a conflict, but a cargo hold full of delicate decorated jugs. It's the deepest, most preserved wreck in French history. But the most shocking part is not the ship itself, it's the modern trash they found scattered all around it, and a clue that suggests the ship's end was sudden. Frozen in time. Miles off the glittering coast of southeastern France, near the rich and famous town of Saint-Tropez, a sonar operator's screen lit up. This was not a submarine. It was not a rock. It was a massive, unidentified shape, just lying on the seabed. It was an anomaly. The crew was curious, and when the Navy gets curious, they have some serious toys. They made the call to investigate. They deployed a high-tech ROV, a remotely operated vehicle. This is basically a deep-sea robot, a heavy-duty camera drone tethered to the ship by a miles-long cable, built to withstand pressures that would crush a human. The ROV began its long, lonely descent. The bright blue surface water turned to a deep navy, then to a dark gray, and then to pitch black. A blackness deeper than night, where no sunlight has ever reached. The ROV dropped past 1,000 feet, past 3,000 feet, past 5,000, the point where most World War II submarines would have imploded. It kept going. It finally reached the seabed at a staggering 1.6 miles down. That is over 8,400 feet. Let's be clear, this is not just deep. This is an alien world. The pressure here is over 3,700 pounds per square inch. It is like having two large pickup trucks stacked on top of your thumbnail. This is a place so hostile it is almost impossible to explore. Then the ROV's powerful floodlights switched on, cutting through the dark. The crew in the control room, miles above, leaned in. They could not believe their eyes. It was a ship, a wooden ship. The ROV glided over the outline of a vessel from another time. It was not a modern wreck. It was ancient. They could see the curve of its hull, the fallen mast, the shape of a 16th-century vessel. They immediately knew this was huge. They made the call to the French Ministry of Culture's Department of Underwater and Submarine Archaeological Research, or DRASSM. When the archaeologists saw the live footage, the line went silent. They knew. The sailors had, completely by accident, stumbled upon one of the most important shipwrecks in modern history. This was not just any shipwreck, it was the deepest shipwreck ever found in French waters. The crazy part? The old record holder was La Minerve, a modern submarine that vanished in 1968. That sub was found at 1.4 miles down. This new wreck, 500 years old, was even deeper. The team gave it a working name, Camarat 4. It was a nod to the nearby Cap Camarat headland. And as the ROV's cameras panned across the wreckage, the archaeologists were in total awe. The ship was 98 feet long and 23 feet wide, and because of the extreme depth, it was almost perfectly preserved. Maureen Sedania, one of the lead underwater archaeologists, said it best at a press conference on June 11th. She called the wreck a genuine time capsule. She said, "It feels as if time stopped on this ship." And she was right. This is not like other wrecks found in shallow water like the Mary Rose, which was pulled up in pieces. This ship was whole. The ROV's camera was like a time-traveling eyeball. It saw hundreds of decorated ceramic jugs, some still neatly packed in the hold. It saw yellow ceramic plates. It saw the ship's massive, heavy anchors. It was a perfect, ghostly image from the 1500s. But then the ROV's lights picked up something else, something that did not belong. Lying in the mud right next to a 500-year-old jug was a modern beer can. Then they saw a yogurt container. then plastic bottles, and then the ghost-like horror of a modern fishing net draped over the ancient wood. It was a gut punch, a moment of pure discovery, ruined by modern carelessness. Here was this pristine piece of history, this ghost from half a millennium ago, and it was sitting in our garbage dump. Arnaud Chomas, the director of the archaeology department, did not hide his frustration. After the awe of the discovery comes the sadness of finding such things, he said. The ocean isn't a garbage dump, but it is apparently being treated as one. The discovery of the Camarat 4 was a one-in-a-million find, a miracle. But it also came with a shocking dose of reality. And get this, the trash was not the only thing that did not make sense. The trash was just the first mystery. As the archaeologists looked closer, they realized the ship itself was a massive armed contradiction. What they found in the cargo hold did not add up. Not at all. The Ligurian Puzzle. So here's the deal. When archaeologists find a shipwreck, the cargo is the clue. The cargo tells you the who, what, and where. And the cargo on the Camarat 4 is baffling. The ROV's cameras zoomed in on the main hold. It was packed with hundreds of ceramic jugs. They were beautiful. They were also instantly recognizable to the experts. They came from Liguria, a seaside region in northwest Italy, home to the powerful city of Genoa. In the 16th century, this was one of the richest and most important trade hubs in the world. These were not cheap pots. Some were painted with intricate geometric designs, others had plant shapes, but a large group of them had something else. 3 letters painted clearly, IHS. What most people don't realize is that IHS is a Christogram. It's a powerful religious symbol representing the first 3 letters of Jesus Christ's name in Greek. This was not just everyday cargo, this was valuable. It was likely headed for a very wealthy client, maybe a powerful church in Spain, or a rich monastery or a cardinal's palace. Alongside the jugs, the ROV spotted stacks of bright yellow ceramic plates and even 2 cooking pots, a haunting human-sized reminder of the sailors who once ate their meals on this very deck. So it's a simple merchant ship, right? A peaceful 16th century delivery van moving expensive pottery from Italy. It's just a simple trade run. Yeah, about that. As the ROV panned away from the hold, its lights hit something metallic, something long and heavy. It was a cannon, and then it found another, and another. In total, the team has counted 6 cannons. This is the central mystery of the Camarat 4. Why does a simple merchant ship carrying delicate religious pottery need 6 cannons? This is where you have to understand that the Mediterranean in the 1500s was not a vacation spot. It was a war zone. It was pure chaos. This was the era of the Great Italian Wars. France and Spain were locked in a brutal, decades-long struggle for control of Italy. But it was not just the main navies. The real terror of the sea was the Barbary pirates. These pirates, based in Algiers and Tunis, were a superpower. They were not a few guys in a rowboat. They had massive fleets of fast, oar-powered galleys. They would swarm out like wolf packs, attacking anything that looked slow. They would raid coastal towns from Italy to Spain and even as far as England, dragging thousands of people back to the slave markets. For a merchant ship to sail from Liguria, which was a key ally of Spain, France's mortal enemy, was taking a mind-blowing risk. So here's theory 1, the armed merchant. This is the simple, safe theory. The owner of the Camarat 4 was not an idiot. He was spending a fortune to move this cargo, so he spent a little more to put 6 cannons on deck. They were his insurance policy. They were there to scare off or fight off a single pirate galley. But that theory feels too simple. 6 cannons is a lot of firepower, and it leads to much wilder ideas. Wild Theory 2, the privateer. In the 16th century, the line between a merchant and a conflict ship was blurry. A king at war, like the King of France, would hire private ships. These privateers were given a license to go hunting. They were legal pirates. Their job was to attack and capture any ship from an enemy nation. Think about it. The ship is found off the coast of France. Its cargo is from Liguria, an ally of Spain. Could the Camarat 4 have been a French privateer? Maybe it had just attacked and captured a Spanish allied ship. The crew would have taken the most valuable, easy-to-sell cargo, the pottery, and transferred it to their own ship. They were sailing home to France with their prize when something went terribly wrong. This would explain the mix of cargo and cannons. Wild Theory 3. The Smuggler. What if the cannons were not for defense but for intimidation? What if the ship was a high-level smuggler and the hundreds of ceramic jugs were just a cover? It's the oldest trick in the book. You hide the real cargo under something that looks legit. What could it be? Weapons? Gold? What about people? The stern of the ship, the back part, is mysteriously empty. This is where the cabins were. What if the real cargo was not cargo at all? What if the ship was secretly transporting a high-value person? Maybe a Spanish spy trying to get into France, or a French noble trying to escape. The IHS jugs could have been a signal, a sign of a pilgrimage to throw off suspicion. The cannons were there to make sure nobody looked too closely. Wild Theory 4. The Q ship. This is the most out there theory. What if the Camarat 4 was a trap? A Q ship 500 years early? It's pretending to be a slow, fat merchant ship loaded with pottery. It's bait. It sails right into pirate territory hoping to get attacked. But hidden below decks are not just sailors, but 100 heavily armed soldiers. The moment the pirate galley pulls alongside, the soldiers swarm the deck. The 6 cannons fire at point-blank range, and the trap is sprung. This was a real tactic used in later centuries. Could it have been used here? It would explain the heavy armament. It was a ship designed to look weak, but hit hard. Whatever it was, this was not a simple delivery. This ship was sailing on a knife's edge. It was armed for a reason. And for the crew of the Camarat 4, their luck ran out. The ship, its cannons, and its secrets ended up 1.6 miles down. And the clues show its end was fast. And it was violent. But why? The cannons are one puzzle. The cargo is another. But the wreckage itself tells the most terrifying story of all. The ghosts of the Camarat 4. Okay, so we have this mysterious armed ship packed with valuable cargo sailing through a war zone. But here's the kicker. Archaeologists do not think it was sunk by a cannonball. There are no telltale signs of a battle. The hull, as far as they can see, is not riddled with holes. So what happened? Marine archaeologists are detectives. They do not just look at the ship, they look at how it's lying on the seabed. They study the debris field, the way the ship's contents are scattered. And the debris field of the Camarat 4 is not a neat little pile. It is strewn about. This tells a story of sudden, total chaos. The experts' number one suspect is that the vessel capsized. Capsizing is a ship's worst nightmare. It is not a slow leak you can patch up. It is a catastrophic, violent event. It means the ship rolled over and probably very, very quickly. 1 minute, the crew is on deck. The next, they are in the freezing black water as the 98-foot ship is pulled down into the abyss. But why would it capsize? The team has a few big theories, and they get wild. The most likely culprit? The weather. The Mediterranean can be a monster. This part of France is world famous for a wind called the Mistral. The Mistral is not a gentle breeze. It's a ferocious, cold, and unbelievably powerful wind that blasts south from the heart of France out into the sea. It can appear with very little warning, and it can blow for days. Locals have called it the wind that drives men mad. It can hit speeds of over 60 miles per hour. It turns a calm sea into a churning nightmare of 30-foot waves. Now imagine this 98-foot top-heavy 16th-century ship. It's loaded with thousands of pounds of heavy ceramic jugs. A sudden violent gust of the Mistral hits it from the side. The sails, high up on the mast, catch the wind like a giant lever. The ship heels over, hard, and then the cargo moves. It's called shifting cargo. All those heavy jugs, maybe not tied down perfectly, slide as one. A cascade of thousands of pounds of pottery crashes against the low side of the hull. And that is it. It's a point of no return. The ship's center of gravity is ruined. It cannot right itself. It's a death sentence. It would roll over and be gone in minutes, if not seconds. The crew would have had no time. But what if it was not just the wind? Wild Theory 5. The waterspout. This is a tornado on the sea. The Mediterranean is known for them. A Mistral wind could have easily spun up a waterspout. If this spinning column of water and wind hit the Camarat 4, it would be like a giant hand swatting it. It would have been flipped over instantly. This would explain the strewn debris field. The ship would have been torn apart as it was thrown. Wild Theory 6. The rogue wave. This is a classic maritime terror. Most waves in a storm are, say, 30 feet, but every so often the ocean's energy combines to create one single monster wave, a 100-foot wall of water that comes out of the darkness. It would not just hit the ship, it would swallow it. It would pick the Camarat 4 up and roll it over like a toy. But the weather theories all have one problem. They do not explain the other giant mystery. The stern is empty. The stern is the back of the ship. In the 16th century, this is where everything valuable was. The captain's cabin, the officer's quarters, the navigation equipment, and most importantly, the ship's coffer or strongbox holding the money. Personal chests. Any really high-value cargo like spices or silk would be stored there. And on the Camarat 4, it's empty. This has the researchers completely stumped. The simple explanation is perishables. Maybe the stern was packed, but it was packed with things that rotted away. Fine textiles, sacks of spices, paper logbooks. After 500 years, it's all just mud. But that is not the only theory. Wild Theory 7. The explosion. Let's go back to those 6 cannons. Cannons need gunpowder. Gunpowder was stored in the powder magazine, which was almost always in the stern. What if the ship was in a storm? Water is washing over the deck. It gets into the powder magazine. Wet gunpowder can become unstable. Or maybe a lantern was knocked over. What if the ship's own gunpowder magazine exploded? A massive blast would have obliterated the stern. It would have instantly sunk the ship. It would explain why the stern is empty, it was blown to bits, and why the sinking was so sudden. Wild Theory 8. Sabotage. This one is dark. What if one of the wilder theories is true? What if the ship was carrying a spy or was part of a secret mission? What if someone on board did not want the ship to reach its destination? A saboteur could have gone into the deep hold with a drill. A few well-placed holes below the waterline, and the ship is doomed. This would be a slow sinking at first, but what if it was combined with a storm? The ship, already taking on water, is unstable. The Mistral hits it. It capsizes. The saboteur escapes on the longboat, but the ship and its secrets are lost. This brings us to the biggest mystery of the stern. What if the crew did escape? When the ship started to go down, the crew knew they had seconds. They would have all run to the stern where the ship's single longboat, the lifeboat, was. In a total panic, they would have grabbed their personal chests, the ship's logbook, the money, anything they could carry, and thrown it into the longboat. Maybe they got away. Maybe they launched the boat just as the ship rolled, taking all the valuables from the stern with them. It's possible, but here's the final, craziest theory about the stern. Wild Theory 9. The plunge. The ship sinks. It's plunging 1.6 miles into the darkness. The pressure is building. The stern, possibly weakened by an explosion or just the stress, is ripped clean off. It flutters away like a leaf, separate from the main hull. This means the stern is down there. It is not empty. It's just lost. It could be sitting hundreds of feet or even miles away from the main wreckage in the dark. A separate time capsule holding the captain's quarters, the money, and the ship's true identity, just waiting to be found. The only way to know is to go back. But going back is not easy. This is not a scuba diving trip. And to even understand what they are looking at, the team has to rely on a scientific miracle. A miracle at 8,000 feet. Everyone is obsessed with finding intact shipwrecks. But what most people do not realize is that finding a 500-year-old wooden ship that is not a pile of sawdust is almost impossible. When a wooden ship sinks in normal shallow water, the clock starts ticking. It's immediately attacked. The first attacker is the water itself. Salt water is corrosive. Currents and waves tumble the wreckage, smashing it to pieces like driftwood. The second attacker is light. Sunlight penetrates the water, allowing thick carpets of algae and sea creatures to grow all over the wreck, burrowing into it and breaking it down. But the single worst enemy of every wooden shipwreck is a tiny, disgusting animal, a creature that has destroyed more ships after they sank than all the world's navies combined. It's called the shipworm, or Teredo nivalis. These things are the stuff of nightmares. They are not actually worms. They are a type of saltwater clam. They look like pale, slimy worms, and they eat wood. They chew through a ship's hull, riddling it with tunnels until it has the structural integrity of a sponge. In warm, shallow water, a shipworm swarm can destroy a massive wreck in just a few decades. They are the termites of the sea. So here's the deal. Why did the Camarat 4 survive? Because it sank 1.6 miles deep. It plunged into an alien world, a world that is, by a scientific miracle, the perfect preservation chamber. Here is why. First, there is total darkness. No sunlight, ever. This means no plants, no algae. That entire layer of the food chain is just gone. Second, there is the extreme cold. The water in the deep Mediterranean is near freezing, just a few degrees above absolute zero. It's like putting the entire 98-foot ship into a giant refrigerator. This slows down all chemical and biological processes, including rot, to a glacial crawl. Third, there is low oxygen. The deep sea has very little dissolved oxygen. The bacteria and microorganisms that normally eat wood simply cannot survive. They literally suffocate. And finally, the most important part, no shipworms. Get this, for centuries, sailors thought shipworms were everywhere, but it turns out they cannot survive in the extreme cold, high-pressure, low-oxygen environment of the deep sea. The Camarat 4 sank into a dead zone, a place where its natural wood-eating enemies could not get to it. Even the crushing pressure, that 3,700 pounds per square inch, is a good thing. It presses down on the waterlogged wood, holding it together, stopping it from falling apart. So the ship is not frozen in ice, but it's in a state of suspended animation. It is a perfect 500-year-old laboratory. This is why Marine Sedania called it a genuine time capsule. It's not just the jugs, it's the wood, it's the rope, it's the metal. Because it is so well preserved, archaeologists can study things they never get to see. They can study how a 16th-century ship was built. They can see the tool marks on the timbers. They can see how the cannons were mounted. They can see how the cargo was stored. They can even look for biological clues. The ROV found those 2 cooking pots. Are there tiny microscopic traces of food left inside? Pollen? DNA? Could they figure out what the crew's last meal was? With this level of preservation, it's actually possible. And that leads to another wild thought. Wild Theory 10. What's in the wood? Because the ship is so intact, scientists could analyze the wood itself. They could take a tiny core sample. From that, they could use DNA to trace the timber to the exact forest in Europe where it was cut down 500 years ago. What about pests? A ship like this would have been infested with rats, cockroaches, and wood-boring insects. Are their remains, their DNA, preserved in the hold? Could scientists reconstruct the entire ecosystem of a 16th-century ship? The team is now planning its next move, are working with the French Navy to go back. The first step is to create a complete digital 3D replica of the entire wreck site. This is not just a video, this is called photogrammetry. A robot will fly a perfect grid over the wreck, taking thousands of high-definition pictures. A supercomputer then stitches all those photos together to build a perfect 3D model that archaeologists can fly through on a computer, measuring every single inch of it. The second step is way more dangerous: recovery. They plan to recover a handful of artifacts. You cannot just send a diver down. You have to use a robotic submarine with delicate claws. They will try to pick up one or two of the Ligurian jugs, maybe one of the yellow plates. Bringing these items up 1.6 miles is insanely risky. The change in pressure and temperature can destroy them. An artifact can literally explode. They have to be put in a special pressurized container kept in the cold, dark water. But if they succeed, they can study the jugs up close. They can analyze the clay to pinpoint the exact workshop in Liguria that made them. They can study the IHS symbol and maybe trace it to a specific religious order or a secret society. The crazy part is, this ship sat in the dark for half a millennium. No one knew it was there. It was found by pure dumb luck. It makes you wonder, what else is down there? The reality of the deep. So here is where we are. We have a 500-year-old ghost ship, 1.6 miles down. It's an armed merchant vessel. It's a contradiction. It has cannons for a conflict, but a hold full of delicate religious pottery. It sank in a sudden violent event, a freak storm, a waterspout, a rogue wave, or maybe even a catastrophic explosion in its own powder magazine. And its stern, the most valuable part of the ship, is mysteriously empty. This is what people watching this are looking for. A true mystery. A puzzle with half the pieces missing. But the thing is, this is not a movie. Archaeologists are now facing the hard, real-world questions. What is the real story of the Camarat 4? Did a sudden mistral wind catch the captain by surprise, capsizing the ship in seconds? Is that why it's so intact? Did the crew, in their final moments, manage to escape in a longboat, taking the ship's valuables with them? That would explain the empty stern. Or was it something darker? A saboteur? A running battle with a pirate galley that ended in a tragic accident? We are not missing one key detail. We are missing all of them. And that is what is so exciting. The team is now bringing in more experts, ceremologists to study the pots, historians to dig through dusty 500-year-old shipping logs in Genoa and Marseille, trying to find a name, a captain, or a destination. They are looking for one line in one book that says a ship with 6 cannons and a cargo of IHS jugs went missing. This one discovery forces us to think about two very different things. First, the past. This ship is a window. It's a reminder of a time when the sea was a terrifying, unknown place. A time of pirates and conflicts, and wooden ships taking insane risks for trade. This ship's crew, whoever they were brave. They were sailing on the edge of their known world and they lost. And then there is the present. The trash. The beer cans. The yogurt pots. The plastic. The director, Arnaud Chomas, was right. The awe is mixed with sadness. We found this incredible piece of history, this message in a bottle from the past, only to realize we have been dumping our garbage on top of it for decades. The Camarat 4 is not just a time capsule of the 16th century. It's a snapshot of the 21st, too. It shows our incredible godlike ability to explore the deep sea with robots, and our terrible childish habit of poisoning it with plastic. The ocean is the world's biggest museum. The Mediterranean is a graveyard of empires. There are Roman galleys down there, Greek triremes, ships from the Crusades, but it's also our biggest dump. The Camarat 4 is the perfect symbol of that. It is a treasure, surrounded by trash, and it leads to one final paranoid, wild theory. The Camarat 4 is a ship of contradictions. But was it a victim of a storm or a battle? What do you think really happened to the stern? Let us know below. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe for more incredible discoveries.